Hi everyone, welcome back. We are doing a video on a glass of milk with some eggs, so a still life. And for that, I'm working on a board and I'm working pretty quickly. I'm just giving it a rough outline. It doesn't really have any definition, and I'm going in and just kind of blocking off sections, which is what I always do, and I always say this, but it cannot be stressed enough. Just block out the sections. I mean, put in your darks, put in your lights, and you'll transform a lot from the beginning to the end. So don't really focus on the small details. Don't get dejected on how it looks. I know I did with this painting, and I know I do with every single painting, but put in the base colors, get in the base shapes. And where you see lights, add a lighter shade. Where you see darks, add a darker shade. And you can go from there. The egg, I'm adding in the colors for the egg, darks where the shadow hits, and lights where the light hits. And it seems like I keep saying the same thing, but block off your darks. For the milk, I'm putting in the same thing, lights and darks, and adding in my midtones where I need to. I'm adding in the highlights for the drapery. They're not necessarily the highlights, but I'm using them as a base to push color in and kind of pull out the highlights a little bit. And play with the color. For the milk, it's clearly like a whitish, grayish color of milk, but I'm adding in a little bit of blues, a little bit of cadmium-free green, because I want to play with the color. And the same thing goes for the egg. I find it a little bit plain, so I'm adding in cadmium-free orange and a little bit of Naples yellow, playing with it as much as I can. And I'm also going to darken the background around my subject just to make them pop. And I'm really not super happy with the background, so I'm going to go in and rescue the painting by adding some alizarin crimson, cadmium red, and cadmium orange, and I'm also deepening it with a little bit of chromatic black and ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt umber as well. And it's just going to give this dynamic red and kind of pull those colors into the rest of the painting. Even on the egg, I'm going in with a very light touch of cadmium-free red and cadmium-free orange, and this just seemed really, really bland to me. So I decided to give the background this effect of Chinese wallpaper. I'll be working on the background later, but I'm going in and adding a little bit of highlights and making sure that I have good midtones and kind of punch up my darks as well, because they do make the painting pop. I'm making sure to add a little bit of color into my midtones, pull in the color from the background, add a little bit of green to kind of spice things up. And as for the background, I'm actually just going in and giving it a base outline. Where it's darker, I'm going in with like a bluey gray, and where it's lighter, I actually just went in with titanium white. And I'm just laying in the basic shapes and the basic patterns that I'm going to be adding throughout the background. And it takes a lot of intricate work, so I honestly just put in like a deeper blue where it's darker, because I wanted the painting to have like the same feel as the background. And I'm just going in and kind of filling out the pattern. And with the pattern, I'm adding in now a little bit of Naples yellow light and a little bit of Naples yellow deep. And I'm also giving the outlines a little bit of burnt umber and burnt sienna on the sides of each bit of the pattern, just to give the painting a little bit of pop, to give the pattern a little bit more character, because you don't want just a flat white or flat yellow anything. You want it to be dynamic like the rest of the painting is. And I'm also taking into consideration the effect of the background itself. So my background has, on the left side, it's a little bit lighter, and on the right side, it's a little bit darker. So I'm trying to show that in the pattern of the wallpaper as well. In the middle, I have a little bit of the bluey gray and a little bit of the Naples yellow, and on the right, a little bit of highlight on the blue-gray and darker grays to show the pattern. And now it's time to make the milk pop a little bit as well, because it's kind of just sitting there. So I'm going in with a really fine detailed brush and I'm adding in a little bit of white, and I'm getting the shine and the reflection of that translucent cup, of that translucent glass, to kind of show through. And make sure that you really check for the value of your highlights, because not all highlights are equal in temperature and in brightness. And it's an easy mistake to make, just to kind of give the same brightness and the same intensity to each highlight. But when you make sure that your highlights have like the right intensity, you create depth even when you bring in highlights. So I am finishing up, and here we go, my eggs and milk.